These are actually crucial lessons I learned that I would definitely take away next time when I'm starting a startup. Most important key to starting a startup is that you need to find a problem that is. Hello internet! I've actually been really into entrepreneurship for the past 5 years, ever since I got into university. And I love entrepreneurship because it's a way for innovation to make its way into the world and to transform people's lives in the masses. So when I was in my last year of university, I was a part of this course called New Venture Design, which is a course where you literally take 3 students in business and 3 students in engineering, and you put them into a team and you see what comes out of it. So we had to come up with our own idea at the very beginning and go all the way to making sure our product had a product market fit, building the product, and also launching the product and presenting the product to people. So this whole product journey was something we went through in the span of 8 months. Here's some things I learned about starting a startup, because these are actually crucial lessons I learned that I would definitely take away to my next time. So the first lesson that I learned was to always talk to your users. And this was something we started doing in September, but it took us almost 3 months to really find a problem that people really wanted to be solved. And this is the key, most important key to starting a startup, is that you need to find a problem that is an itch for people, that people want to scratch. And I've heard this from somewhere, I'm not sure where it's from, but you want to be able to scratch your own itch. So if you have a problem of, say, like you don't like washing the dishes, so that is your own itch. And what could you do? What kind of product could you create in order to solve this problem of helping people to not have to wash their own dishes other than a dishwasher? But an itch that people want to scratch is a very good starting point when you're starting a startup, because startups are all about what people would pay for and what people are willing to buy. So if you found a product that people are willing to pay for, then you found the right product. So what you want to do is like really discover the pain point. And this is a key thing that you want to always look for during a startup, is to look for pain points. Pain points are things that actually really like create a lot of friction in a user's daily life. So for example, in UX design, this is what we always look for. We always look for pain points in a user's journey, because we'll map out every single task that a user has to go through in the day, and we'll look at what are the times when this user is going through a very difficult time. So at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is about solving real problems, not the ones that you think people have. So the second thing I learned that's very important is to talk to some experts, because the experts in the field are the ones who really know what's going on and what are the areas of gaps that people are going through, so knowledge gaps that people are going through. So for example, one quote I really like from Henry Ford says, "If I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses." You know, sometimes people are not really thinking about active solutions. So you don't want to ask people what they want. You want to give them what they need. So what they really need maybe is like an automobile, but what they want is based on their current perception of reality. And at that time, they only have horses. But if you talk to experts, you might discover some new technologies that are able to guide you on your way to providing a solution to people. So when we were making our app, we talked to a counselor that was working at UBC, and he told us about how a lot of people have trouble with feeling their body, and like because people who experience trauma actually dissociate from their bodies. So after talking to him, we realized maybe a problem is to help people be more mindful of their bodies through meditation, and then also be more mindful about their stress levels. So maybe we could create a product that measures people's stress levels in their bodies to give them some sort of active feedback. So that was a problem we decided to tackle, is to help people measure their stress levels through a wristband kind of device. So honestly, it was a combination of talking to the users, but also talking to the experts. The experts gave us the inspiration, and then we can validate it with the users as well. So it's really up to your journey, but if you have the opportunity to talk to experts, I would highly recommend having them on your team or having them as consultants, so that you can really bring in key insightful feedback for your product or business. So the third thing that I learned from this whole process was that no matter how much I love entrepreneurship, if it didn't align with my values, then I didn't really want to work on the product that much. Because like at the beginning of our journey, we would switch a new idea every single week. There were many products that maybe would have done well, but it didn't align with all of our values. So there was one exercise that we did during our startup journey that really helped our team bring us together and ground us in what we really wanted to pursue, because there was too many ideas out there that we could pursue. So what the idea was is we had a brainstorming session where we wrote down all of our values on a whiteboard. So for example, if one of us is interested in health and someone else is also interested in health, then we would just jot that down on the whiteboard, and we would spring off of health to look at what potential problems in health that we could target and which ones have the most similarity in our group. So I realized that if you go after a product without aligning your own values, it's going to be a very hard journey. You're not going to be able to follow through, because entrepreneurship takes a lot of time and effort. So it has to be something that you believe in, and it has to be something you're passionate about. So after we did that exercise with the values, we started to feel more focused on, okay, we are all pretty passionate about mental health, so we could all pursue a product that's more related in this area, rather than like every week we'll like spring out new ideas to each other and then we would discuss, and that would be a waste of time if we didn't align our values at the beginning. So aligning your values is something that's very crucial, that actually I only realized after I started working with a group of 6 people. Maybe it's because I've always wanted to just work by myself, but it's very different when you're working with other people, and it's even more crucial to align your values when you're working with a team. Another thing is that we didn't only align our values, but there's one area that's values, but we also had another area for interests. So we wanted to see what interests could align with our values, because your values and interests are both important when you're pursuing something like entrepreneurship. So we wrote down all of our interests as well as our values so that we could compare to see like whether we could have the same interests and values while we're pursuing this startup. So next time if I were to do another startup, I would have the first meeting or the first few meetings just to talk about our values and just to make sure that we're all aligned on the same page before we head into the tumultuous journey of starting a real startup. So lastly, I realized that being an entrepreneur is not something that you just say or just commit a few hours every day to. Being an entrepreneur means that you're available and ready all the time, and at any time of the day, because there are people relying on you and there are people who are really passionate. If you're not able to match their passion, then there is something wrong, because being in a startup is all about passion. And I realized that a good startup is not just about the idea, it's about being passionate about your product, because that's what drives your whole team forward. Because there's really no incentive at the very beginning. You all have to be passionate about the product. There were so many times during this period of 8 months where we actually had to do like spontaneous 9 p.m. Google Hangout calls. And that was just like a norm. Like 3 times a week we would call on Google Hangouts just to talk about our product, because there is just that pressure to make sure that our product is something we're proud of and make sure that we're creating something that's of value to the world. So if you're not passionate about your product, you really have to think twice about whether you want to be committed, because commitment means you have to be passionate, and passion is one of the prerequisites to any startup. Through all of the things that I've experienced through these 8 months, I was able to really learn what it's like to start a startup, do the financial sheets, get all the surveys and interviews, learn how to do presentations. It was a very incredible journey because we were surrounded by so many passionate people in our class. And I would really recommend this class as well if you're at UBC and you want to take something that really challenges you and take something that opens up your mindset to entrepreneurship. So all in all, finding a challenge worth taking is almost as important as starting the challenge in the first place. So that's one of the key things that I would say, is to really reflect on who you are as a person and to reflect on what kind of challenge you want to take. Because finding the challenge is very important, and it's also very exciting. So I definitely don't want to discourage anyone from starting a startup, but I just want to let you know about how you can let things run a bit smoother, and to make sure that you go into this journey knowing what it is that you're expecting, and to know how much effort to put in, and to make sure that your values align in this whole process. So I hope you learned something from this video. Yeah, stay happy and stay creative, and I'll see you guys next week.